Condition. With Janaelle and Will. Hello and welcome back to Alternate Win Condition. This is episode... I forgot already.
6. Episode 6.
Awesome, we're in episode 6. He literally just told me that 30 seconds ago. And with me is Will.
It's like, you can't take away my commander anymore. It's got to. I can move it back. You cannot make me shuffle it anymore. You can't. You cannot.
And that actually brings us straight into the news, where in Commander they've changed the rules so that you can no longer make someone shuffle their commander back into their library. And if you guys have been listening, you know a couple weeks ago somebody fucked me over pretty bad by shuffling my Krenko into my library. Mind you, I still killed him, so vengeance was mine. But
it's like, well, and actually seeing the reaction from the commander community, I've seen some people say it's very good, and my guess is those are the people who actually play Commander frequently who say it's good. But there is also a lot of hate for it. It'd be like, no, that was one of the few ways you could deal with commanders, was to make an opponent. It was called the tuck rule. It's like you couldn't make you can make an opponent have to tuck their commander, and then they would, unless they had some sort of a tutor, they would never get it back. So
yeah, but that's so much bullshit. It's fucking Commander. It's not Magic. You build a deck around the card that you fucking get to bring out all the time. That's the point of Commander. Like, suck it up and deal with it. I get my Krenko back, bitches.
Well, see, what's bad is I agree with half of it. I don't agree with the. I'm not wild about the other half. Shuffling into the library, yes, no, you should have the option to move that shit to the command zone. That's no problem. However, moving back to your hand, I don't know if anybody's ever actually complained about moving a commander to your hand. Because then you get to cast it for its original casting cost without having to pay the commander tax.
I don't know, but that's why it's an option. Some people like to actually put their commanders in their graveyard.
Well, see, I mean, that's the same thing. If you have an easy way to recruit it back to your, back to the battlefield versus casting it for the cheaper mana cost, then yeah, you always have that option. And I guess you have the option to put it into your library, and then if you still run a whole bunch of tutors, you can go get it without having to pay the commander tax for it going back to the command zone. But it's interesting at the very least. It's like, so I haven't played Commander in quite some time. I've mentioned before on the show that I am not a huge fan of having to play politics during a game. So I haven't played in quite some time. But from just remembering from when I did play Commander, I am all for this change.
I'm happy. That's all I have to say. Very happy.
I'll say. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There's a ban restricted update. Unless you play Pauper, nobody cares. So.
Alright, and now we're going to get into what we did this week in Magic.
Magic the Gathering. Get the cards, play the game. Hope to win. But as we all know, it's not about winning.
Draft.
Commander.
Trading.
Legacy.
Modern.
Standard.
Tilt.
Table flip.
This Week in Magic starts now.
Alright, well, so what were you up to this week?
Well, let's see. During the last episode, I mentioned that I had gotten enough points to go to the Invitational, but I wasn't quite sure if I would be able to get off work. Well, I was actually able to get off work. So, so a lot of it this past weekend. Unfortunately, I had to work this past weekend, so I did not get to really go to the pre-releases. I got to go to one. And even that one, I wasn't able to stay for the entire time, which was fine, because, I mean, literally the only reason I wanted to do the pre-release for this was to get one of the mats from Star City.
Mm-hmm.
So,
were you able to get your mat?
I was able to get my mat, yes. And the other thing that I was able to do, completely outside of Magic, but related to the pre-release, is I actually got to play that dice game that we talked about before, the Tarkir Dragon Fury.
How did that go?
About as lame as I thought it would be. It's like, well, I mean, admittedly, I did get some very nice promo cards, like a promo Evolving Wilds, a promo Dragon Fodder, So I mean, there were some nice little promo cards that came with it. But I apparently suck at the game.
Oh, snap!
I rolled with my 20-sided die. I did roll a 15, which was good enough to get 3 of the 4 cards, so that's a good start. but I didn't knock over a single thing. It was just more like just roll and be like, okay, and nothing. But the judge did give me a high five for not making him have to reset it back up. So he was happy about that much. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people talk about it and they say, yeah, it was fun. I'm sure if you got multiple rolls at it, it probably would have been better. But yeah, we only got one roll because, you know, we had so many people playing it that it's just like, okay, whatever. So, beyond that, basically everything else has just been getting ready for the Invitational. Still playing my green-white with a little splash of red devotion deck. And standard. Playing the red, of course, for Crater's Claws. Unfortunately, the one big change I really wanted to make to the deck, I don't think I'm going to be able to unless some Death Mist Raptors just happen to show up out of nowhere. From the new set. So chances are I'm probably not going to be able to make a whole lot of other new changes to it. The one thing I did get to do this week is I did get to change my modern deck out from Grixis Delver to Grixis Twin. And I got to play some Splinter Twin. Alright, I'm just going to say this, is if you're playing Modern, the deck you need to be playing is Splinter Twin. I'm going to just say it right now. If you're playing Modern, Splinter Twin is the deck you need to play. Because that deck is amazing on what it can do. It can just be like, oh, you tapped out turn 3? Well, you're dead. Thanks for playing. So, I'm going to make a few more of the changes. That's not one of the invitational formats this weekend, but it was very fun to play. And then playing,
That's
of course,
what matters.
Grixis Delver and Legacy. Because again, Tasigur, I think, is... I think people are only starting to realize now how broken Tasigur is in Legacy.
Tasigur's just broken wherever he goes.
Well, I mean...
Tasigur needs to I don't like that card.
Well, I mean, a 1-mana 4/5 that can't be Abrupt Decay, can't be Lightning Bolted, you know.
That's what I'm saying.
Is like, the only thing you can really do to it is either beat it in battle or Swords to Plowshares it. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing with that. But yeah, and the Invitational this weekend, it starts on Friday at noon, and this is probably about as close to the Pro Tour as I'm ever going to actually get. So I have to enjoy this. But it's multi-format, standard and legacy, 16 rounds over 2 days, and the winner gets $10,000.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, so with $10,000, a spot in the Players Championship at the end of the year, and a token after that's made in your likeness.
Oh wow!
So, yeah, so it's a big deal winning the Invitational. Thankfully, also just playing in this Invitational should qualify me for the next 2 Invitationals as well, because I'm at 14 points for Season 2 and 14 points for Season 3. So just playing will give me my ticket to the second and third one of the year. So
great.
So how was your week?
I didn't play at all.
Didn't play at all this week?
No, and I didn't play last week either. I've been busy with work. Yay, work.
I was like, oh, busy,
I
busy
didn't go to the
working.
pre-release. I didn't do shit. I was sad and bored and sad.
Well, with that in mind, are you looking to get another booster box of Dragons of Tarkir, or?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm gonna play sealed a whole bunch, and I'm just gonna say fuck you to standard for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's good because it will allow it to standard to shake out a little bit. Let's see what cards you really need to get for standard if you're going to play a certain deck. And
yeah.
So
I already have my 2 decks, so I'm gonna either keep fussing with one or both of them, or I'm gonna sell them both and get something new. I don't know what I want yet.
It's like, I will say this much: I'm sort of surprised that there are not more money cards right now in the set. The 2 Planeswalkers, I think, are both at 30 or above right now. But in terms of just other cards, I mean, I don't think there's any other cards that are really above $10 beyond those 2. And you would think in a set full of dragons, you know.
I think we need to wait for some kind of tournament, honestly. I think people don't even fucking know what's going on right now. That's my opinion.
I think
they usually don't fucking know what's going on without a tournament because they're all sheep.
It's like sure. It's like, and I think this weekend's gonna be very big towards that because this is literally the day it comes out is the day that the Invitational starts. So unless someone was very lucky in getting all their cards, I'm honestly not expecting to see a bunch of innovation this week.
No, there totally will be. That's not just luck. That's also trading and people, working together and all that shit. I think we'll see a lot of stuff.
Well, I think we'll see alterations to current decks that we have. For example, I would expect the mono red decks to add in Dragon Whisperer. I would expect the Jeskai decks or the red white aggro decks to add in Thunderbreak Regen. But in terms of a brand new deck format coming out, I don't think we're gonna see that until the week after, where we have time for it to settle in.
We'll definitely see. And with that, we're going to move on to our main topic. We're going to start now something called Magic 101, where we're going to bring on a judge, and we're going to talk to him for a while. In the future, you'll have the opportunity to email in the show if you have any judge questions, if you're curious about something coming out in the new format. But for now, we're going to talk to him about the new rules coming out and, just other stuff that we've been wondering about. So here's Magic 101. Alright, here we are with Steven, our Magic judge, who's going to be joining us occasionally on alternate win condition. So, Steven, tell us about yourself as a judge. Where do you judge? What level are you? All that good stuff.
Okay. So, yes, my name's Steven. I'm a level 1 judge, and I judge in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, primarily at 2 local game stores.
And how long have you been judging for?
Well, officially as a level 1 judge, only since the Fate Reforged pre-release.
And unofficially?
Since October of last year.
How long have you been playing Magic for?
Oh, goodness. Since 99, 2000? Something like that.
So...
Oh, wow. So you've been around for
That's like
wow.
15 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Like for basically most of Magic, because I'm trying to think of the sets that were released in 1999 were like...
It was Invasion, I think.
Invasion Blood.
Yeah, so everything before that... Like, I haven't been playing since Alpha, because that one of my buddies has, or a few... And you meet people like that all the time, but, yeah.
What formats do you play in competitively?
Competitively is only Standard. That's the one I really enjoy.
And casually?
Lots and lots and lots of EDH.
Is EDH your favorite format, or is Standard your favorite format?
That's a really good question. EDH is my favorite format to play with my friends. Standard is kind of the competitive spike outlet. Just where I can go and actually compete in, competitive relevance like IQs, Grand Prix, things like that. Grand Prix not so much because they're not a lot of the time local.
Yeah, there's actually, and yeah, they really don't have a lot of, because they have to, I guess since Wizards has to split their Grand Prix worldwide, it's just, you don't run into as many Grand Prix in the US as say like a Star City Open or something like that, so.
Star City Games has a lot of events, which is nice, definitely.
It
like
definitely
the
is.
Opens and stuff.
So,
all right, so we're having you on to talk about all the new cards that are coming out, specifically the new mechanics. So let's get this started, and let's talk about Rebound. So how is Rebound going to be working? What are the details we need to know?
Well, primarily, you need to know that it's not going to be that complicated. It's just I guess we can just look at a card specifically. I think it was Ojutai Summons.
All right, yeah, let's look at Ojutai.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Ojutai's Breath, which is I know that one right off the top of my head because I had it in the pre-release today. Which is 2 and a blue. Tap this instant tap target creature that opponent controls with Rebound.
Right. And it has the reminder text, if you cast this spell from your hand, you exile it as resolves. So if it gets countered, you don't get to do that. And at the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast the card from exile without paying its mana cost.
So basically we'll go into this, we'll cast the card, and then at the very next turn it comes back.
Right, during your upkeep. And, it's like you're casting the spell. It's what you call an alternate cost. So, say, you have this, or you have Ojutai's Breath, and it goes on the stack during your upkeep when it's cast. Your opponent has the chance to respond to it like any other time.
And you don't have to cast the card, it is optional. So say if somehow casting it again would be bad for you now.
Well, yeah. Say if you have Ojutai's Breath, like he mentioned, and your opponent doesn't have any creatures, then you can just choose to not cast it. But if you do that, it's just going to stay exiled forever. Like, you don't get another opportunity each upkeep to cast it again.
Which is good for everyone else.
That would be really weird.
Yeah. Now, actually, I had a interesting question come up with Rebound, and this actually, it goes a little bit more into Modern. This actually happened at the Baltimore Open.
Boy.
I was playing Infect, and the turn before my opponent cast, I don't even know the name of the spell, but it's a blue spell that says target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn and rebound.
Distortion Strike? I think.
Distortion Strike, yep, thank you. That's exactly what it was, Distortion Strike. All right, so here's the situation. Is all they had was an Inkmoth Nexus.
Okay.
They were able to do that on their turn. Then during the next upkeep, they had no creatures on board.
Okay.
Do they get a chance to... Because I was told by the judge that they do not get a chance to animate the Inkmoth Nexus to be able to cast the spell. It's like the spell just is immediately on the stack. If there is no target, there's nothing. Yeah, how does a situation like that normally work? Because I know there's a few cards like that in this set where you get a bonus for a creature or something like that. So if there are no creatures, then
right. And I think I've heard that question come up before. That's a really good question. I think I'm going to have to agree, because during your untap step, nobody gets priority, and then it's going to go to the upkeep. The spell's going to be cast and go on the stack, and you'd have to have targets to cast it. So I actually agree with what he said. Yeah, okay. I don't think you would be able to do it.
Okay, and that's kind of that's what he definitely thought, was that, okay, since there are no active creatures, there is no target for the spell, thus.
Because when you're casting a spell, you have to have the target. There's actually quite a few steps to casting a spell, unbeknownst to some people. But yeah, that'd be kind of weird. I'm going to respond to this spell with no targets and activate this land and then target it. See how that doesn't work?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Since we're on the topic of Rebound anyway, kind of want to talk about a very peculiar card in Dragons of Tarkir, which is Narset Transcendent. It's like her her -2 ability is the next instant or sorcery spell that you cast on this turn gains Rebound.
Right.
Now, I have heard a lot of people saying we have a Temporal Trespass from Fate Forged.
Right. This one.
Yeah. And so, can you just kind of walk through the steps of what would occur if you activate Narset and then cast Temporal Trespass, and what would actually happen?
Yeah. Without going into too much detail, because I heard this question floating around on Reddit and everything else, and I've heard it asked by a lot of people, and I see there's a lot of different answers. So I actually looked on the Tumblr for the rules manager for Magic, because he's been asked that question, and a lot of people ask him questions before the sets come out or when they're previewed. And really what happens is it's go on the stack, and it being exiled is part of the spell resolving. So it's going to be exiled before it has any chance to be exiled with Rebound's effect, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you only get one extra turn, not two extra turns, essentially.
Exactly.
Because of that. Okay.
Right. And I think
no hijinks.
no hijinks. And I think I actually have the rule because this came up in the set where Rebound was originally from. And it's like, it goes like this. If a spell moves itself into another zone as part of its resolution, Rebound won't get the chance to apply. So it's moving itself into exile before Rebound gets the chance to apply.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Now, with that in mind, I know as of right now we don't really have any real sort of graveyard hate in Standard right now. But let's say there was a card that said, target player's graveyard is exiled.
Okay.
And it does it because I'm assuming when you say it has to hit, I'm assuming you mean it has to hit the graveyard before it goes into, and before the rebound effect occurs and it exiles, correct? Because that would be part of the resolution.
Oh, sorry. No, it doesn't ever go to the graveyard.
Okay.
It's exiled instead.
Okay, got it.
It's a little confusing, but basically, Temporal Trespass is just exiled as part of the spell resolving.
Okay.
And Rebound just never gets the chance to apply.
Okay, got it. Okay, because that's what I was wondering. Is like, the other question that I've seen come up is, if the opponent counters the spell before and it never resolves, how does that work with Rebound?
Well, basically, it's just never going to go to exile. Because it says you exile it as it resolves, and if it gets countered, it never resolves.
Okay. And as I say, that's generally what I've heard too. So that's why I wanted to make sure that if you're playing counter magic and you counter that spell, there is no chance for it to rebound. So
yeah, that would make Rebound
is depressing.
Yeah, that would make Rebound way better.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I know.
Silly hijinks. You counter it, fuck you. It's coming back next turn. Alright, let's move on and talk about Exploit.
Oh yeah. This is fun.
So this one is when this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a creature.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward.
So far.
Yep.
So I think where people are going to end up with questions is more things like say Sidisi, right? Enters the battlefield, and when Sidisi exploits a creature, you search your library for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
Yep.
So, say it enters the battlefield, and in response, the other player blows up their only other creature.
Okay. So, they definitely have a chance to respond to you casting the spell. They can kill your guys, everything like that. I'm gonna say you have 2 1/1 goblin tokens, and they Bile Blight both of them, or something like that, or Ultimate Price, or whatever you want. Then Sidisi's going to come to play, and at that point, you get to make the choice to sacrifice a creature and put the trigger on the stack. So, it says sacrifice a creature, so you can actually sacrifice Sidisi yourself.
Oh! So, basically, if you've got an exploit creature, they've always got a target for the exploit unless you counter the card.
Yes, and the other thing they could do is, so say they do that, and Sidisi comes into play, and you choose to sacrifice her, and the trigger goes on the stack, and now the trigger's existing independently on the stack from her. So that's fine. Since you sacrificed her, it's going to resolve, and you're going to get the effect. Now the different scenario is, say you come into play, like Sidisi comes into play, you sacrifice a goblin, trigger goes on the stack, and in response, they kill Sidisi. Well, the trigger's going to resolve, but she won't be there anymore, so it's going to be countered on resolution.
Oh, so that's how you deal with exploit, is you don't kill the thing they're trying to sack, you kill the exploit creature.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
Kind of the next question that I have with this, kind of going with the same thing, is say you have two of the same. You have 2 Sidisi Undead Advisors.
Oh.
You cast one. Do you get to exploit itself or the other creature before the legend rule takes effect? Like, since it says you can't have two of the exact same creature on there.
Okay. That's a really good question. Give me one moment.
Yeah. I would think, and I'm obviously not a judge, you might have priority on which effect takes place first, because it's your legendary creatures.
The only thing I've seen, it says that state-based effects take priority over triggers.
And that's right. That's absolutely right.
So
I just needed to double check.
Yeah, so the legend rule would take effect before you even get the chance to exploit. So
right, that's one of the and there's a lot of them. That's something you call a state-based action. The legend rule is applies before any triggers go on the stack. So you're actually going to get rid of one of them before you even get to put the trigger on the stack. It's the same as a creature being dealt lethal damage, or you taking 20 life and being at 0. There's a lot of them.
I think that's kind of lame. I think you should be able to sack your legendary creature to exploit.
Yep. Well.
Oh well.
Right into him, say, this stinks.
You silly people.
Change the legend. Change the legend rule. Go back to
no. Make an exception for exploit. Just exploit.
Just a DC.
Just a DC. Yes.
So, I'm trying to think of, because there was another exploit rules kind of question that I had, and I forgot what it was off the top of my head. So
that's okay. We can wait.
Yeah, it's like, but that's fine.
No, we can't. Dead air. What you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. Never mind.
Okay, so now there are different kind of effects that go. Well, let's say for example, do any actions that would normally occur when a creature would die would occur anyway? For example, say you have a Flame Wake Phoenix, and you cast a DC. Exploit triggers on the stack. You choose to sacrifice the Flame Wake Phoenix.
Okay.
And Flame Wake Phoenix is face up, but it's not face down. So, with the whole process.
Do you mean the Phoenix with Morph?
Yes, the Morph Phoenix. Yes.
I think that's has a different name. I think Flame Wake is the one from.
You're right.
Fate
Ash
Reforged.
Cloud. Ash Cloud. Sorry.
Yeah.
Flame Wake is the one that you can pay a red. Even though that does work too. Even though that does work too, as you can.
Well, let's get back to the question. So the question is, if you have Ash Cloud Phoenix face up on the battlefield, you cast a DC and sack Ash Cloud Phoenix, do you get the Ash Cloud Phoenix trigger and have it come back face down?
Yep. It's being put into the graveyard, so it would come back. So you'd sacrifice it, that trigger would go on the stack, resolve, comes back face down, and then Sidisi's would resolve.
Sounds like cheating.
Sort of.
Going back to the Flame Wake, you could do that with Flame Wake Phoenix too, and then immediately pay 1 red mana to get the Flame Wake Phoenix back, since the DC has at least 4 power. So
that's right.
You can do that
pretty
too.
Cool.
More cheating. Oh my goodness.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh wow. Okay, I see black and red having some fun here.
Well, you got a big cool dragon.
Yeah. Alright, so last but not, definitely least. This is definitely the least impressive spell. Megamorph. I called it a spell. Whatever. So if you haven't heard, and I don't know what rock you've been living under, because everyone's making fun of this ability, Megamorph is an improvement, kind of, on Morph, where when you turn the creature face up, they also get a 1/1 counter on it. So... Yep.
That's basically the only difference.
The one question that I can see people running into, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I just want to go ahead and ask it anyway. Is since we have manifest anyway, if you manifest a creature and you decide to pay the original casting cost instead of the Megamorph cost, what occurs?
You don't get the +1/+1 counter. It'll just get turned face up. Now, if it says when this card is turned face up, you get X effect, that'll still happen. But you specifically have to pay the Megamorph costs to get the counter.
So all right. So it's not like the old Morph where they said, oh, you can pay either or to get the same effect. In this case, it is you have to pay the Megamorph cost to get the
The counter.
+1/+1 counter on it. Okay.
Yeah, it's specifically tied to that keyword.
So okay, all right. That was really the only kind of outside case, because I think beyond that it works just like Morph as a special action.
Right.
It's faster than instant speed, so they can't kill it in response to you paying the Morph cost.
Right. It
blah, blah,
doesn't.
blah, so.
It doesn't use the stack, and something I've heard people ask about. They don't get to respond to the counter being on the creature. It just gets turned face up.
Oh, well,
and
we're
it has the
talking
counter.
here about Stratus Dancer.
Oh,
So
right.
when he says that the counter you can't respond to the counter, he's talking about Stratus Dancer, which if it's face down and it gets flipped, you counter target instance or sorcery spell.
Well, what I meant was the +1/+1 count. Sorry, that was my bad.
Yes, sorry.
I got confused.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So in that case, if you manifest Stratus Dancer, then you flip it up from the manifest cost. You can still counter the spell. You just won't get the +1/+1 counter on it,
right?
Because you didn't pay the Mega Morph cost.
There seems like there's no point in doing that.
So, I guess we could just walk through what would happen if that's okay with y'all.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so say you pay it face down. You pay 3 colorless. It's a face down creature. No name, no types, no color, no anything. So then you have 2 more mana, because you're awesome. And then you pay 2, so 1 and a blue. You turn it face up for its Megamorph cost. It's going to be turn face up and just have the counter. They don't get a chance to respond to the counter being placed on it, anything like that. It is a special action. And then the trigger goes on the stack for it countering the spell. And they can respond to that, but there's really not a lot in Standard you can do about that. Yeah.
In Modern or something, you could fizzle
confirms
it.
Stifle reprint.
Stifle
Oh,
Magic
gosh.
Origins.
Yeah.
Magic
If there was
Origins,
something
Stifle.
like that, yeah. Like if there was Stifle or Trick Bind or something like that, you could stop it that way. But currently I don't think there's anything like that in Standard, unless I missed something.
No,
I
there's,
don't believe so.
there's not. I was saying, with fetch lands in right now, I think that would be horrible for them to reprint Stifle and be like,
Yeah.
man,
That'd be a lot of feel bad.
Yeah.
I
it would.
stifle your land fetch. What?
Yeah. We don't want newer players getting introduced to that. I imagine Wizards doesn't like that.
No, what the fuck do you mean I can't have my land?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would like that very much.
No.
It's like, let's see. I think there is one other kind of new mechanic that I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit, and this is more of in the form of specific cards, and it's formidable.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that one. Yes.
This is the one that says that you have more than 8 power, then a certain effect occurs with
I'm
that.
not looking forward to that shit.
The one I want to talk about in particular, and I'm not certain of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's the one that is a mana dork. It gives you 2 mana, I think, of any color. However, if you tap it for the formidable and you have more than 8 power, that the opponent's life totals become equal to the number of creatures they have.
Right.
I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. I'm looking it up really quickly just to.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
It's like.
Could you board wipe and then formidable and kill them?
Yep.
That's all kinds of bullshit.
Well, I probably wouldn't board wipe because
I don't care. It's all kinds of bullshit.
Because your life, unless you play another creature behind it, your life gets.
Yeah.
You go to 0 too. So in that case, okay, I guess that is an interesting case. Is let's say you do board wipe, and then you activate the formidable ability with no creatures on the field. Is it just a draw at that point? Well, I guess no, that's not possible because then you have to at least have the one creature to tap.
Oh.
You're right.
Oh.
So, yeah,
it's not like you can activate it from the grave or
That's
something.
irritating. Never mind. Okay. How could you?
I don't think
you
you
could give
can.
all your own shit indestructible and then do it.
Then
do a board wipe and then oh my god, that deck would be fucking bonkers.
Well, there is one card in particular. In Garrick's Wake.
Yeah.
Is a one-sided board wipe, but then you need like 17 mana to pull that off. Maybe a green devotion deck might be able to pull that off, but that's,
well,
even that's
even
pushing
if they
it.
drop like 2 creatures on their next turn, You've got
Still-
them at 2. I think you can handle that shit. Because you have to have at least 8 attack power on your side.
Or you just play it against a control deck and laugh. Just be like, you don't have any creatures anyway.
Let's see.
Alright, now I need one in my sideboard.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess kind of the main first question that I was thinking of when it comes to formidable is
Right.
because it seems like this is something that could be really messed up in kind of in response to triggers. So for example, say you have
Mhm.
at 8 power when you do it, but upon resolution you do not have 8 power.
Yes.
So say they used Hero's Downfall on a creature
yeah.
or something?
And so correct. So you already have the formidable trigger on the stack. I'm trying to think of one in particular.
There's the one that when it attacks, the stampeding elk herd, I think.
Yes.
It gives all your guys trample. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Is when it attacks, if you have more than 8 power on the field, then creatures you control gain trample. So let's say it attacks. Well, no, I guess that's too late. But let's say before it, well, because then that sort of answers itself too. All right. So how about in this case? Let's say you have some effect that momentarily pumps it, and then you go into combat.
Okay.
Then what would occur in that case? Even though I think that's kind of probably self-answering the question, honestly. But
I think this is really straightforward.
well, I would say there are some that are and some that aren't, though. Is like
Yeah, and I've kind of found, looking over the release notes and stuff, that the formidable stuff, they just kind of lumped into 2 different categories. There's ones that are triggered abilities when something happens, and there's also ones that are activated abilities.
okay, all right. Here you go. Is like I actually think I have a better example here. Let's
Sure.
talk about a Tarka Beastbreaker, which
Okay.
is a 2/2 for 1 and a green with formidable 4 and a green. It says a Tarka Beastbreaker gains +4/+4 until end of turn. Activate this ability only if you control creatures with power 8 or greater. Say you
Okay.
activate it and then you lose the formidable ability, or you lose the caveat of having 8 power.
Well, wouldn't... Oh no, she
would
would have 6, not 8.
Well, see, here's the thing. So, let's just use this card like you said. So, I have this and a 6/6. And I go, okay, I'm going to activate this ability. And they go, well, in response, I'm going to kill your 6/6. When it comes to activated abilities, the formidable is only a stipulation for activating the ability. So, you've already activated it, and killing something in response and taking away your total of 8 power isn't going to stop the ability from resolving. Because you've already activated it.
Since you paid the cost and met the initial requirements, then
Exactly. Right.
It's
But the other scenario with the stampeding elk herd is different because it's a triggered ability. So that's going to check when the ability goes on the stack and when it resolves. So if they do the same thing, like you've got the elk herd, which is a 5/5 for 5, and a 3/3, and you go to attack, and the ability goes on the stack, and they kill your 3/3, it's going to resolve, say, oh, you don't have 8 power, and it's not going to happen. Well,
Okay,
it'll just
so-
have no effect.
okay.
Right.
So all right. So in that case, you can respond in response to stampeding elk herd attacking by making it less than 8 power, essentially
Right.
on the field. So
Or
okay.
you could even respond to the triggered ability going down the stack. Either way. It
So-
basically happens at the same time. But yeah.
All right.
So-
Let's see. I think the only other one, I mean, that's even sort of unique because there's no real cost associated with it is Surak the
Mhm.
Hunt Caller, and that's saying just
Oh, yeah.
at the beginning of combat on your turn. So in other
Right.
words, if they do not respond prior to the beginning of combat, then it checks immediately. If it resolves, it resolves. Correct? I'm assuming.
Well, that's also a triggered ability, and they
Okay.
can respond to that. So it says at the beginning of combat.
Yep.
So you're gonna enter combat. The triggered ability will go on the stack, and then they get the chance to respond.
Okay, so it sort of works the same way as stampeding elk herd. That if you
Right.
if you make it less than 5 8 power, then Surak's ability will never go on the stack, essentially.
Well,
so.
just it just will never
Surak's
have
ability
any
will never
effect.
resolve. It will never resolve.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they just happen at different times.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's really all for formidable that I can think of.
Yeah, it's like she was saying, it's really straightforward. Yeah, they did a good job with that, actually.
Triggered versus activated, and that's all you need to know about that.
Basically, yeah.
So do you have any other judge-type questions for Steve and Will?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of any other kind of unique.
Well, if you don't, that's all right. We
yeah,
can move on.
I'm trying to think of any. Okay, let me go ahead and ask this because I know people are going to be wanting to play both Sarkans in the same deck. So just because I think it's pretty clarified rule, but if you plus Sarkin, original Sarkin, and make him into a dragon, at that point, can you play Sarkin Unbroken? And what would occur in that situation, essentially?
All right, I think I know what you're getting at. Let me read Sarkin the Dragon Speaker. Give me 1 second, because I've had situations like that, and also the fun situation of making him a dragon and then cloning it, and then it's like, oh no. Yeah. So let's see. In solo into turn, Sarkin the Dragon Speaker becomes a legendary 4/4 red dragon creature with flying, haste, and indestructible. He doesn't lose loyalty while he's not a planeswalker. So you activate that, you attack, you play Sarkin Unbroken in your second main phase, and you activate his ability. So at the end of turn, during the cleanup step, he's going to become a planeswalker again, and they're both going to be planeswalker Sarkin, and you'll have to choose one because they both have the same type, sort of. They're both the same planeswalker, like planeswalker Sarkin. That's what you have to look up. So it's the same as like having a Jace Architect of Thought and a Jace the Mind Sculptor. You can't have them both in this play at once. You have to choose one. It's called the Planeswalker Uniqueness Rule. Kind of like the Legend Rule, but a little different.
Okay. Actually, okay, I did think of another question because I forgot that we have the command cycle in Dragons of Tarkir. So I do want to talk about kind of that with rebound.
Okay.
When you do say you have a spell that has multiple options, like you get to choose 2 of 4, or even get to choose 1 of 4. When the spell rebounds on your next turn,
right?
Do you get to pick two different modes than what you initially chose, or do you have to choose the exact same modes as when the spell was originally cast?
Okay.
Because I know for like times when you're duplicating spells, like say you have the Howl of the Horde that makes 2 copies of it, it makes the exact same copy of whatever you just cast versus the rebound.
Right. If you make a copy of it, it's going to copy the decisions made when you cast the spell. So it's going to have the same modes. You can choose different targets, but it's going to have the same modes. Reading Rebound, I want to say that it's a different instance of the spell, so you get to choose different modes. So you're casting it again. It's not like it's the exact same spell. You're casting the spell again.
Yeah, I would think you get to choose.
Yeah. That'd be kind of a weird restriction. Like, you can only make 2 choices
forever.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
The
commands are weird. They have a lot of stuff with targeting and everything, which is actually a good thing to talk about, I guess, if y'all want.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the situations, like, what's the big popular one? Ojutai's command?
Yeah.
I think?
Yep.
So say you go, well, I guess we can look at the card. I believe it's a 2 white-blue instant. You choose 2. Gain 4 life, draw a card, counter target creature spell, and return a creature with power
converted mana cost 2 or less.
Right.
From graveyard to battlefield.
Right. So, not all of those target which is actually good. It's not like some of the other ones. But say you go, I'm going to gain 4 life and counter target creature spell. If they, well, actually, sorry, that's a bad example.
Let's return something from the graveyard.
Right. And say they have somehow removed that creature from the graveyard. The entire spell is going to be countered because it had a single target and it got removed. It'd be the same as Silumgar's command. If they somehow removed both targets, then it would be countered as well. So basically with spells, if they have one target and are doing multiple things at once, and the target is removed, then the entire spell is countered. And that's actually a really good thing, a good example. Silumgar's command, say you so it's 3 black and blue, give a creature -3/-3/-3, return a permanent to its owner's hand, destroy a planeswalker, and counter a non-creature spell. So let's say you go -3/-3 and return a permanent. Your opponent would have to remove both targets for the spell to be countered. So if they just say sacrifice the creature in response, you'd still get to bounce the permanent. Like say you chose a land or something. So that's the thing about the commands I think that are really confusing, is that they let you choose multiple targets, and sometimes people think that, oh, haha, I removed my creature, now your whole spell is countered. No, that's not how it works.
Now going with Silumgar's command, let's say they chose the counter target non-creature spell and remove target permanent. If they somehow do something to take care of the permanent, would that
return it to its hand or something?
Yeah, and that or do something so that it doesn't return to its hand, or it's not targetable anymore. In that case, would the non-creature spell be targeted or countered because the one target is gone, or is the spell itself on the stack a target?
The spell itself on the stack is a target. Okay. So they would have to find some convoluted way of removing the spell from the stack, and then I guess that would work. But I don't think you can do that in standard, at least. That'd be really weird. Yeah.
Can you do that outside of standard?
You can remand your own spell on the stack. Oh no, sorry, yes. No, that's a creature.
Well, yeah.
You can remand your own spell on the stack. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess there's stuff like a Mindbreak Trap that exiles any number of spells.
Or she just ended your turn with that one artifact, or that just pay 1.
Oh, Sundial of the Infinite?
Yeah.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I think that would work.
Fuck you! My turn's over!
Now we're getting into, EDH territory.
It's the really weird...
Oh, you have no idea.
But...
Yeah.
I'm gonna play this creature, and I'm gonna do this thing, and no, I'm gonna... fuck you, I end my turn.
Well, because EDH has access to almost every card in the game, so you get stuff with, Possibility Storm, Knowledge Pool, Teferi, and 5 other things in play, and they're like, what happens? And you're like, I don't know. Give me 5 minutes. Yeah, because it really all boils down to, a 90% of the time, math. Lots of math. And it's really annoying. Yeah.
Alright, so you got any more questions, Will?
Actually, I do have one more, and I just thought about it. We have a very unique creature card in this set, which is Ojutai's Exemplars. Which is
the 4-mana 4/4?
Yeah, 4-mana 4/4 that when you cast a non-creature spell, you can choose to either tap target creature, gain first strike and lifelink until end of turn, and then or exile then return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Let's say, for example, someone targets this with, say, Hero's Downfall or something like that. You cast, I don't know, Wild Slash or something like that, and choose the exile Exemplars.
Okay.
Would they? The question that I know is probably going to be asked is, do they have a chance to respond to the trigger? So basically, they're trying to take. It takes 2 kill spells to kill it, essentially. But do they get a chance to respond to the exile trigger?
So, okay. So you have the Ojutai Exemplars. You go, I'm going to Hero's Downfall that. And they go, nope, I'm going to Wild Slash that. And the trigger goes on the stack. They definitely have a chance to respond to it. But they would have to burn another removal spell to get rid of it.
And chances are they're probably not going to do that.
Probably not. That'd be weird. And, but I mean, it'd be good for you. Yeah. I mean, just be like, get rid of 2 of the removal spells.
Mm-hmm.
There was one card in particular in this set that I kind of wanted to go over. Yeah.
Okay, what card?
I don't think it's, like, particularly powerful or anything, but I read about it the other day and I thought it was kind of funny.
What's the card?
It's called Enduring Scale Lord, I think. Let me see.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about, because it's the one that whenever another creature gets a +1/+1 counter, it gets a +1/+1 counter?
Yeah, let me read it. So it's 4 green-white for a 4/4 dragon. It has flying. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are placed on another creature you control, you may place a +1/+1 counter on Enduring Scale Lord. So the thing to note, just with the rules stuff, is that if a +1/+1 counter are put on multiple creatures you control, the trigger is going to happen for each creature. So that's pretty cool. Like, say you have a spell that says put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. It's going to trigger each time.
Wow.
But the really funny thing is if you have 2 of these, and you say, well, okay, well, I'm going to put a +1/+1 counter on this. So the other one's going to see it and be like, oh, you got a counter. Now I get a counter. And then that one's going to go, oh, wait, you got a counter. Now I have a counter. So they're going to keep going and going and going and going and going, and it creates an infinite loop.
It's an infinite combo with 2 dragons on the field.
Well, it's infinite in the fact that you can do it as many times as you want, but it says may, so you have to stop eventually.
Well, yeah, I mean, once you get to, like, 5,000, you're just like, I have 2 5,000 dragons, and I'm done.
Yeah, Wizards is really good about not inherently creating infinite loops on their cards, because if it didn't say may, the game would end in a draw unless someone had a response.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's good.
So technically, you can never go infinite, because if you say infinite, then the game is a draw, and you can't, because nobody can act. So
yeah, that's if you do that,
you could choose to draw the game.
Well, if it didn't say may, it says may, so you have to stop. And if you come up with an opponent,
you don't want to.
Well, then the judge will probably tell you to stop.
He's like, please stop. Please.
You're being a douchebag. Just stop.
Well, yeah, basically. Because, you and your opponent are doing the same thing. You're trying to finish in 50 minutes, have fun. Mm-hmm. And if you're just sitting there wasting time where you really shouldn't be, hopefully the judge will step in and be like, hey, you need to choose a number. You need to stop. Please. Maybe.
Like,
I don't know.
Now there are circumstances, like, because I know we talked about this when World Gorger Dragon was unbanned.
Yeah.
There are possibilities to where if there are no legal targets, then it can potentially go in a draw situation.
That's with Animate Dead.
Yep.
Yeah, so say your opponent's tapped out, they have nothing in their graveyard, you have nothing in your graveyard, and you do that. I don't know if your listeners know the combo, but basically it keeps animating the World Gorger Dragon, keeps going to the graveyard, keeps going. I don't know. I guess I could explain it in detail another time. But if there's no other legal targets besides Dragon, it's just going to keep going, and the game will end in a draw. It's the same as, like, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but with Oblivion Ring, if you get 3 of them, and there's no other permanents on the battlefield, they create an infinite loop and make the game a draw. It's really weird. Yeah. Which is why they made a Banishing Light, which is Oblivion Ring, except it just says opponents, not a permanent, or non-land permanent. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They wanted to stop that from happening. Because people would, like, just go to FNMs and, like, troll people and stuff. Be like, infinite, yeah. And break Magic Online.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's like, Okay, there is another interaction I just thought about that I did want to talk just really briefly about.
Well, we're actually gonna have to stop with the questions for now. Maybe next time Steven's on, we can get into all the more interesting things that are happening in Standard right now. In the meantime, we wanted to ask you a little bit how it is that you became a judge. How do you go about? Do you just walk up to another judge and say, "Hey, I want to do this thing"?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that does happen. It really, for anybody, it really depends on your community. Like, I'm really fortunate to have a local game store where I've known a lot of the judges there for a long time, including one of the level 2s. So I approached him one day after I'd gotten some personal stuff straightened out, and I basically said, hey, I'm interested in studying and eventually testing to get certified. And he's like, okay, well, I know one of the level 2s that became a level 2 recently. I'm looking to get people for him to mentor. And I met him, we exchanged email, and we studied for about 5 months. And then he tested me at the Fate Reforged pre-release.
So in general, if someone else was looking to become a judge, you would say find yourself a level 2,
right,
and ask them what you need to do to become a judge.
Yeah, and I do realize that there's a lot of locations and a lot of states and a lot of places where people don't readily have access to level 2s. So if you're in that situation, be like, oh, I don't know where to go. Each region, and I don't remember exactly how many of them there are. We ourselves, in Texas, it's U.S. South, I believe. Each one has a regional coordinator. So there's this really useful website called the Judge Wiki, and it has a bunch of different links, like classes, resources, and one of them includes a link where it tells you all of them and gives you the means to contact them. So if you don't have a level 2 in the area, I would recommend contacting your RC and then see what they say. And they could probably reach out to a level 2 or give you their contact information.
All right, and whatever advice do you have for someone who's wanting to become a judge?
Definitely take it at a pace you're comfortable at. Like, my mentor was very, very, very in-depth, which I appreciated. We studied for a long time. And the thing is, if you have a local game store that does F&M, you don't have to be a certified judge to do a regular REL, which is like REL is rules enforcement level. So regular would be like F&M, pre-releases, game day, things like that. You don't have to be a certified judge to do that. So if you approach a judge, or if the level 2 that's mentoring you wants to get you some experience, they could have you judge F&Ms at your local game store, or the game store they go to if it's close by. So that's a really good thing. Like, I started in October, and I judged F&M for a while, like pretty much the entire time I was studying. And it's a good way to just reinforce it. F&M's a good environment because there's a lot of newer players, and they ask a lot of, surprisingly, a lot of really good questions that are not really intuitive. Like, protection comes up a lot, things like that, priority, and there's a lot of really good resources too. And again, the Judge Wiki, you can pretty much, I think you just Google it and it's the first result. It has judge classes, things like that. I mean, I think there's a couple of other things like that. Yeah, links to the comprehensive rules. If you see something about the infraction procedure guide or something like that, just ignore that. You don't have to know stuff about that for your level 1. That's for competitive REL, like Star City Opens, IQs, Grand Prix, the Pro Tour, I guess.
So things that level 2 or 3 judges handle.
Or a level 1 that's looking to judge competitive. or working towards level 2. Because I myself am working on judging competitive, but it's going to take a lot of studying, and I don't... You really need to be familiar with it because there's a lot of penalties, and it's a lot stricter. It's not for casual play, I would say.
How long do you think you're going to need to study before you become a level 2?
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I guess it just depends on the person. I think they usually recommend at least 6 or 8 months. Me, I'm going back to school in the future, so it probably won't be for a while. I mean, I would like to eventually, but probably not anytime soon.
But on average, it's about 8 months.
If I was to give an average, I would say at least 8 months, probably a year, maybe more, because level 1s primarily do regular rel, stuff like that, and some of them dip into competitive, like me. That's what I'm looking to do. And level 2s and above have a significant amount of more responsibility. Like,
okay.
Yeah, like level 2 is an area judge. That's what they're called. So they wouldn't be just tied to one store like a lot of level 1s are. They would go to like multiple ones. Like my mentor, I think he told me he judged at 10 or 12 stores in a few months, something like that.
What about a level 3? What do they do?
They are regional judges. So most of the regional coordinators are level 3s or more. And they have significantly more responsibility. They're the ones you're going to see head judging higher level events, things like that. And they're the ones that test level 1s for L2.
What about level 4s?
Oh, man. Well, there's not very many of those. I think last I checked, there were 9 in the world.
Good lord.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are like head judging pro tours and stuff like that. Like, they're the
head judging pro tours, and they have a lot more responsibilities. They're responsible for like sometimes all of entire countries, things like that. They write policy documents, things like that, put out articles on the web, stuff like that.
And they get paid by Wizard?
I have no idea. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I think that would be a very interesting job if it is a job.
I say, well, I know for a fact that there are some judges that do judging as their kind of full-time
career.
Yeah, so there's like,
yeah.
There's
Sure.
like,
I mean, I'm sure there's some that are level 4, level 3, or above that work for some of the major players in the game right now.
Star City and the Magic Pro Tours and that kind of thing.
Star City especially. They're very, very widespread, which isn't a bad thing. They put on good quality events. It's just they have a lot of people on staff.
How do you become a level 4? Who's testing the level 4s?
Last I checked, I think it would have to be an L5.
There are L5s.
There's only like 2 though. I mean, the L5s are rare.
I think there's 4 or 5.
4 or 5,
if I recall correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. There's not a lot of them. There's
No. You have to. That's basically the best of the best, the elite. They're above everybody else. So.
Now, one of the things that I personally find interesting about kind of judges and judging stuff like that is whenever like new mechanics are coming out and kind of setting what the rules of those mechanics are. Now, I know, of course, Wizards has, they've been playtesting sets for years ahead of time, so they kind of know how the rules are shaping out and everything. But in terms of setting it, like, for example, I guess, like, one of the most recent changes with judging stuff is failing to reveal morphs used to be a game loss. And now it is a warning. At competitive REL.
Or regular.
Or regular?
Well, no, not regular. Yeah.
So what kind of like who are the people who kind of make those decisions? Is there like a head committee of judges that say, look, people are purposely like trying to abuse this to take advantage of it, get free wins. We need to change this. Like,
well, there's a few points on that. I know that a lot of the people in Wizards, you know, after playing the game for a while, I really appreciate the fact that they're always working to make it better, and that includes with policy and with rules, because Magic is huge. It has its own South Park episode.
Yeah.
It's growing and growing and growing, and that's great. But with that, you're gonna get people that are not so nice and want to take advantage of people. So I would say that R&D and the people over at Wizards have a lot to do with that. But a lot of level 5s, I would say, like, I don't know if there's a committee. I'd have to get back to you on that. But I know there's a few level 5s. Like, the one off the top of my head that I know is Toby Elliott. He's one of the level 5s that has to do with stuff like that. But I think that they really, when it comes down to it, with social media, all these websites writing about it, all these resources, they pay attention to what people say. And right. I imagine, TOs, judges were giving them feedback, and it was just a really bad environment when that was the case.
When you have people going online and bragging, say it's like, oh, I would have made day 2 of a GP, except, oh, you forgot to reveal your Morse.
Yeah. It's really bad.
Yeah, that looks very poorly. It's like...
Yeah. And people would try to do the whole, I've heard it referred to as the gotcha. Like, they'll just expediently pick up their cards and you'll do the same, and you forget to reveal one, and then, they call a judge, and you got a game loss. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, no, we don't. That's just awful. How would you feel if that happened to you? Really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty shitty.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to wrap things up here. So thank you for coming on the show, Steven.
Yes, thank you.
We're going to be doing more Magic 101 segments in the future. So if you'd like to write in and have Steven answer your judging questions, then send us an email. That's, if you've forgotten, awcpodcast@gmail.com. So we will talk to you next time. So thanks again to Steven for coming on the show. We're looking forward to having this as maybe a monthly segment where we bring him in, ask him questions, and have some Magic 101.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, just kind of from that judge perspective, because the judge has a very different perspective of the game than I think even a lot of players do. So, yeah, it would be definitely great to get your questions and to ask him those questions and to get some answers. And even if it's something that, a question you have come up at your store or something like that, send us an email, hit us up on our Twitter, just make us aware of it and we'll get to it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question strictly about Magic, just something, in the judging world that you think a judge can give you an answer to. And that's the end of this week's episode. So thank you for joining us at Alternate Win Condition. We will be back in 2 weeks. But if you'd like to hear random stuff from us, you can find us on Twitter. I am Janaelle5, Janaelle and the number 5. The show has a podcast at AWC Podcast. And Will, he's got a Twitter too. Yep, and I say by the time you get this, you should probably be able to go back in my timeline and read all about the Invitational. It's at RedHawkWill. You can also email the show at awcpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to get your questions. And you can support the show a lot of different ways. You can find us on SoundCloud, give us a like or a repost there. You can find us on Stitcher, where we'd love to get a thumbs up from you. YouTube, if you're listening there, comment and like. iTunes, we want a 5-star and a review. That's asking so much. And lastly, we have boltsnapbolt.net. That's who's hosting us and being so generous with their website. Well, why don't you tell us more about them and how our listeners can help support their website? Absolutely. Bolt is a great community. It has a bunch of different Magic players, a bunch of different Magic articles, depending on whatever facet of Magic you're interested in, whether it's drafting, tiny leaders, commander, you name it, and you'll probably find something on this site for you. I'm going to be good this week because I actually have the names of the articles for the Tiny Leader one, which is Half a General, and our new limited writer is called Mole Drafter.
awesome.
So, two relatively new writers for the site. Definitely would like you to check out their material. Of course, you can also check out my blog there, Force of Will, where I'm sure by the time the next episode comes up, you'll find a good synopsis of what happened at the Invitational. And then also, if you want to support the show financially, you can do that on the website. There is a Puka Trade referral link on the site, and Puka Trade, if you've never used it before, is a place where you can trade Magic cards to get points. You accumulate those points to get something that you really, really want. Say like I don't know. Let's say you get a fetch land or a dual land or something like that. I mean, and if you check out their Twitter feed all the time, you'll see like, oh, foil Tarmogoyf traded for 4,000 or 440,000 points or something like that. So you can usually get kind of see the stuff that people are trading back and forth on the site. In fact, actually, I think this past week they finally traded their first unlimited Black Lotus.
Oh, goodness.
On the site. Good Lord, who knows how many points that cost, but they did it. So I mean, literally, if you're looking for any Magic card, just sign up for a Puka Trade through the Bolt Snap Bolt site. You'll be helping us out. You'll be helping out the site, and you'll be helping out yourself.
And that's going to be it for us. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Bye now.
All right. Bye.